Peace, peace, peace. I am Dr. Philip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the August 5th edition of Rhetorically Speaking. Props to those of you who are watching on YouTube. Let me get the right side. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share. I love when the white supremacists, white nationalists, the capitalists, those who adhere to the patriarchy, I love when y'all get into the comment section because I'm going to clap back. You know what I mean? I think that's what Birdman did, something like that. Also, props to those of you who are listening on whatever streaming service you got popping right now. I think my Spotify price goes up next week, $1 or $2. So I may not, I may or may not be continuing with Spotify because listen, I don't know if we're in a recession or not, but I know my money is looking funny. I was having a conversation earlier about the housing crisis that continues. I want to buy a new crib. Right now, my mortgage is super manageable. Super manageable. I bought my house back in 2009. When I hear about the prices, what folk are paying for one bedroom apartments, for efficiency, over $1,000, over $1,200, $1,500 for apartments, I'm like, yeah, I know that the houses are going to be, I'm not going to say even more, but it's going to be comparable. The interest rate that I saw was 7%, and that's if you got amazing credit. My credit is slowly but surely elevating. Long gone are the days where I take $500 credit cards, which happened on Bloomsburg University campus. I think there's policy now and there's laws where these credit card people can't actually be on college campuses in some states, because they definitely got me. I got 2 credit cards for $500. I went to Sunshine Blues, and I racked up on some. Did I buy some? No, I didn't buy Nietzsche jeans. I bought some academics. I bought an academic velour baby blue. We talking about the start of the school year. Fam, I was ready, but my credit paid for it because I didn't have a job to pay off my credit card bills. But we passed that. We're an adult now. And I think the only thing I got outstanding on my credit is this 100 and some odd thousand student loan, which starts back up in about, they restarted on September 1st with the first payment being due in October. I didn't get anything waived. I don't even think I got the $10,000. So we just going to be out here making it do what it do. We going to try and pay them off. That's if I hit a lick. That's if I hit a big score. If I get 100 some odd thousand payday. Outside of that, listen, catch me when you can. I'm the gingerbread man, or whatever y'all favorite capitalistic MC says. With that being said, we're gonna get a start into this. This is gonna be a short episode because I wanted to speak on one topic specifically because it impacted me throughout this most recent weekend. For several reasons. I will be having a conversation on my other podcast, hashtag You Good Man podcast, with my homeboy Mike Olnick. Make sure you go and again hit that subscribe button because it's on. Make sure I get it there for those who are watching. It's on YouTube. I also post clips across my socials, and again, it's the same place where you're viewing this on whatever streaming platform. But the incident that really grabbed my emotions over this past weekend was learning of the murder by, let's make sure we get the police department right. The August 24th murder of Takia Young by, start over. Because remember, we've had this conversation when we talk about rape culture and we talk about the importance of putting the perpetrator at the front of the conversation, so the victim doesn't become the focus. The victim, in some cases the survivor, don't become the center of the story. In this case, we should be focusing on the Blendon Township Police, who on August 24th murdered 21-year-old Takia Young after engaging her in a shopping center parking lot due to allegations of shoplifting. I say allegations of shoplifting. In my Dr. Umar voice for the third time, allegations of shoplifting. She and others were accused by a supermarket employee of having taken multiple items, but Takia was alleged to have taken bottles of alcohol. Now, what's noteworthy about this is Takia was pregnant. So I doubt the alcohol was for her. And we'll get into a conversation about even stealing from the supermarket, what that signifies as a society when you have to steal anything from a supermarket. So after the employee informed police, cops, because they say cops is a derogatory term. I saw that on Law and Order. Yes, I do watch Law and Order. After the cops, right, 12 pigs, the list goes on and on. After they were informed by the supermarket employee about the thefts that were taking place, Takia was identified as still being in her car, not having pulled off. So the cops engaged Takia. Now, I did my best not to watch this video. I did my darndest. I posted about it because I didn't need to see another black life snuffed out by cops, by 12, by the fuzz. I just didn't need to see it. However, I felt that it was important for me to watch this video, and it was a very brief video, and I don't encourage you to watch it to ensure that your wellness isn't compromised in any way. But I felt it was important for me to watch this because I number one, I thrive off emotion. I thrive when I'm feeling emotional. Hence, what you'll get in this conversation is emotional me after viewing it. Still being pragmatic, still being able to offer some critical thought on the situation. But there's something about viewing it that just lights a fire in me. And it's probably extremely toxic. That's probably an unhealthy trait that I have. It's probably a red flag when it comes to ensuring your wellness, that you need something like this to I don't want to say invigorate. Invigorate would be the wrong word. We'll figure out the word. But I needed this. I needed to see it to be able to convey my thoughts, feelings, and emotion, which are extremely authentic and raw. So I watched the video, and what I saw were two cops walk up to Takia's car. We don't see the walk up. We just see them at Takia's car. We see one cop at the door yelling at her to open her door. We see the other cop in front of the car at the hood, gun already drawn, which is an important part of this conversation. Yelling at her to get the fuck out of the car. You hear her say, "What are you going to do? Shoot me?" As she proceeds to try and veer off to the right to actually avoid the cop, who is again standing in front of the car with his gun drawn. And you see him open fire as she slowly accelerates to try and drive off. The car then slows, hits the side of the supermarket within the plaza. You see the cops break the window, and it goes dark. Allegedly, the cops were attempting to render aid to Takia. If you're that quick to shoot, how quick are you to attempt to render aid, to try and save somebody's life? That's not at the forefront of your thought, saving somebody's life, if you're that trigger happy. I can't explain why that part was edited out. Hopefully the family had an opportunity to see it. So Takia, again, she was pregnant. I'm not sure how many months pregnant she was, but she was 21. Both her and her baby died, snuffed out, slaughtered by the Blendon Township Police Department. The footage, which the family argued that the public release should have happened long before the date it was released on September 1st. Now, For me, whenever I hear about news being released on a weekend, I recognize that it's intentional. And you may be saying, Phil, why is this intentional? Think about it. I'll give you a second to think. What's happening on Fridays? Majority of people are itchy to get off work. That's why they have the slogan TGIF, or they had the slogan TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. You want to get off work, whatever drama you've had at work, the stress accumulation that comes from work. For folk who work a traditional Monday through Friday 9-to-5 job, you're looking forward to that time off. You don't want to engage with any bad news. You don't want to engage with any news at all. We know that people become hyper-focused on themselves and their loved ones and their friends before they have to go back to work on Monday. But alas, and this is why, again, this was extremely strategic. This was Labor Day weekend. So we have an extra day. We have a holiday. Here in the north, in the tri-state area, folk are trying to get to the beach. They aren't worrying about seeing the news and seeing the cops murder someone in cold blood. So if we can get this news out by Monday, something else will be happening. Everybody will be reinvigorated, energized, and we can go from there. We see that all the time. We see that in sports media, where something might happen on a Friday, because who's going to talk about it? On the weekends, you don't have your traditional, your Monday through Friday news host. You don't have your typical, your producers that you have during the week. Whether it's news, whether it's sports media. We saw it in the legal system with Trayvon Martin. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the verdict of that murderer, George Zimmerman, and I hate saying his name, is nasty, came out on a Friday or a Saturday. I want to say a Saturday specifically. That verdict came out. Now, and that's a little, maybe some would say, well, Phil, that's a little bit different because it's a jury. And yes, but it still has the same effect. There's not going to be as widespread conversation about it due to the time that it's released. So yes, this was very strategic. After watching the video, and even before watching the video and just reading different news outlets, I started questioning, did he have to shoot? And the answer for me was, of course he had to shoot. He had to shoot her. Now, it might not be reasoning you might be thinking. It's not because, he found his life to be in danger, which we'll talk about in a couple seconds. No, it's because this is what agents of the state are trained to do. They've been trained to shoot to kill for centuries. When we go back to slave catchers and those who are out attempting to hunt down enslaved Africans who turned out to be enslaved African Americans, black folk. Yeah, they were going to get them, but if they had to shoot them, that's a lot easier than dragging somebody back on a horse or having them walk on a horse. Side by side with a horse, rather. To what? Come back and face further punishment. So this is ingrained in that culture. Shoot to kill. Whether or not a threat is imminent. So yes, he had to shoot based on how cops are trained. Now, of course, the abolitionist in me, the abolitionist light, I'm still trying to get a handle of it. the humane person in me, the one who has reason, who can reason and has critical thought, says, you didn't have to shoot her. If the cop that's engaging her, language aside, the cop that's engaging her on the driver's side, well, why couldn't the one in the front just go back and do what? Write down the driver's license, the license plate number. Because we're not talking about a felony to the extent of them having a gun in some capacity. We're talking about shoplifting. We're talking about shoplifting alcohol. We're talking about a pregnant woman who the officer who was in the car could clearly see, because when I see pictures of Takia Young, you can clearly see she's at least 6 months or more pregnant. So you can see all of these things, which I'm not sure why they weren't communicated. Because again, that's not their job. Their job isn't to check out the landscape and use reason and be thoughtful when engaging individuals. Their job is, and how so many approach it, is to induce harm, to create more of an issue, which this individual did. So I'm not sure why that individual, I just said why. I know why that didn't happen, right? It's maddening that so many people, not only black and brown folk, but we know black and brown folk are disproportionately impacted by police violence. But this did not have to happen. And it seems like I'm making these types of videos so regularly. It was Eddie Irizarry 3 weeks ago, who we're still waiting for that cop to be arrested. Because this is happening frequently. And this has happened. This act is so egregious, and there's been recognition amongst police departments around the country, beginning in the 70s and 80s, where departments are like, well, listen, we don't want innocent bystanders shot. We don't want innocent people who just happen to be in the vehicle with the alleged offender to be harmed. So let's cool it on just shooting all willy-nilly into vehicles. Unless there is a weapon, like a gun, where there's a threat. Or if you really are in danger of being mowed down by a vehicle. But hey, you know what? You may jump out the way. Because we want to avoid lawsuits. We want to avoid public perception that this is the Wild Wild West. And this is what happens when you shoot at vehicles. But despite police departments like the New York Police Department and departments across the country who've adopted these procedures, these types of murders still happen. Which brings me to, what do I think is going to happen to the police officer, to the cop that shot Takia Young, that murdered Takia Young, that slaughtered, snuffed out Takia Young? We need to be intentional with our language when we're describing these police-sanctioned murders. It's not just killed. It was murdered. It was assassination. That was a shoot to kill. Without any thought. That was the natural impulse. That was the inclination. That was the training. To shoot and kill. Takia Young, disregarding that she was pregnant, disregarding that the alleged crime was shoplifting. Shoplifting. No, this cop will not be charged with murder, with manslaughter, with assault with a deadly weapon, none of the above. And you might be asking why. Because there are mechanisms in place to make sure that they aren't. To make sure that cops who discharge their weapon stand free and clear. One of them is qualified immunity. There's also this idea that all you have to do is say your life was in danger. As we recognize what race relations look like here in the United States, which the systemic aspect of it is evident when we look at who's disproportionately represented in prisons and jails across the country. It's black and brown folk. So if in mainstream white America, right? And when we say mainstream, that's what we're talking about. In white America, if the perception is that black and brown folk are threats, then any type of engagement with the police, the good guys, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt. That's why you can see Commissioner Outlaw here in Philly come out the day after, well, the night of Eddie Irizarry's murder by that coward Mark Dial, come out and say, well, he got out the car, he lunged at him with knives. Because it's the idea that black and brown folk are violent, that they are a threat to all that is good here in this democracy. Just look at the conversations. I don't recommend going on Twitter or YouTube and look at the comment section. Why didn't she comply? All she had to do was get out of the car. What was she shoplifting? Why was she shoplifting? Well, people who shoplift, you think if they had $1 million, they would just go shoplift? Unless they were a kleptomaniac? Probably not. You think if they had the means to get what it is that they wanted or needed, that they would just go into a shopping market and steal it? Probably not. But think about the language that's used when we're talking about black and brown folk who may have, I don't want to say committed a crime, who may have made an unhealthy decision. Because I'm still waiting to hear, did she have alcohol in the car? But we know, even in situations where individuals were alleged to have done something, but they didn't do it, and they end up harmed, maimed, killed. If they are alive, they'll still get charged with resisting arrest. Well, how am I resisting arrest if I ain't do shit? So I'm still waiting to see. I need to see some video of some alcohol bottles in the car. Not that that'll do much, because you shouldn't die from shoplifting. I hate to be that person because it's so cliche. But it's real life killers out here who they bring in without issue, who has the guns, all the ammunition on them, and they still bring them in alive, take them to Burger King. Like that white supremacist down south who shot up, what was it? Was it Mother AME Baptist Church? But public perception, again, it's not even public perception. It's white perception, white nationalist perception that the cops are the good guys, and if they have to discharge their weapon, then it was for a reason. They get the benefit of the doubt. As Bomani Jones brought up, and I've talked about numerous times, there's a fundamental belief that some folk gotta die in this line of work. Public safety means some people gotta die, and it's gonna be some innocent people that gotta die. If you carrying around dozens and dozens of eggs, you might just drop a couple. That's just the cost of doing business. That's how it's viewed. That's how policing is viewed in this country, and how strong the police unions are. I haven't seen a statement from the police union, from Nesbitt here in Philadelphia, about the Eddie Irizarry murder. Language matters. About Mark Dials, disgraced officer Mark Dials' murder of Eddie Irizarry. Maybe he did, but it didn't get the national attention like it usually do, or the local attention like it usually do. I didn't see a press conference. So that's another reason why folk believe cops. I want to bring this to your attention. In doing research for this, I found some data. Since 2005, 139 police officers, and this comes from 2001. Since 2020, 2021. Since 2005, 139 police officers have been arrested for murder or manslaughter due to an on-duty shooting, according to data from Philip Matthew Stinson, a criminal justice expert at Bowling Green State University, who has been tracking the data. That amounts to fewer than 9 prosecutions a year. However, there's about 1,000 fatal police shootings reported each year in the U.S. So the arrest rate is around 1%, never higher than 2%. So if the police shoot and kill someone, there's a high likelihood they won't even be arrested, let alone prosecuted. Again, reasoning, this perception of a perceived threat, even if it doesn't exist. Now we talk about why, another reason why this is. Because who's going to do it? I mentioned briefly about how strong police unions are. What does that mean for a prosecutor? Here in Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, the police union hate him. A lot of people hate him. And he's supposed to be progressive. But we see how slow they are to prosecute Mark Dial and other cops who've committed heinous acts. Why? Because they have to engage with these people on a day-to-day basis. So that type of needing to have some type of relationship with these individuals means what? Listen, just to maintain homeostasis, yeah, we're going to be slow to prosecute. Part of the article talked about how fellow police officers, these offenders, fellow cops, are slow to investigate. Now, I know you might watch Law and Order Special Victims Unit and you see the guy who ended up dating and being with, I haven't watched it in a while, who worked for IAB, Internal Affairs. These are cops who investigate other cops. Now, we know Boyle hated Stabler. He always believed everybody else's word over Stabler's. He wanted Stabler out of there. But that doesn't take place across the country. So they may be slow to investigate. Fellow cops may be slow to cooperate in investigations against their peers. Why? Because they got to be with these people every day. I can't even say I don't understand that. I do. It's like, shit, I got to work here, man. And if I come and if I say something, what's going to happen to me? You going to be a snitch. The streets is no different than the police department, than the mafia, than the cartel. They have the same setup, the same hierarchy, the same behaviors. I haven't watched not one of those Fast and Furious movies. But I know one thing about it is what? It's family first. Ain't that the tagline? You know what I'm saying? So that's not going to happen. So what happens? Bad cops stay. Even though I don't necessarily think there's a such thing as a good cop. This is a prevalent problem. This is such a prevalent problem that the Department of Justice, during their investigation of the Baltimore Police Department, when Freddie Gray was murdered by the police, he had his neck broken because they just threw him in the back of the van, intentionally driving and swerving till he broke his neck. And prosecutor Marilyn Mosby tried to bring them to trial, the officers involved, but subsequently she had to drop the case because it's so hard to prove. After the investigation, the Department of Justice said, racially disparate impact is present at every stage of Baltimore Police Department's enforcement actions, from the initial decision to stop individuals on Baltimore streets to searches, arrests, and uses of force. So it's saying that it's problematic at every level. At every level. But yet here we are. Baltimore police still out here wilding. Philly police still out here wilding. These local police departments in these small towns are even worse because they're usually white men who have already been indoctrinated into this notion of white nationalism, who has a sense of pride by wearing the badge. Again, that type of language. A sense of pride by wearing a badge, to knowing what the lineage is. And so, again, I say, this will not end. This will not end until the people make it end. Forcefully. So sending love and light to Kia Young's family. A rest in paradise to her and her unborn daughter. And love and light to folk who had to view that video, whether for their profession or just curiosity. And to black folk in general, who have to cope with these types of situations. Listen, I appreciate you all for tuning in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Boop, boop. If you're streaming on a platform, you can also hit the subscribe, like, comment. I would definitely appreciate your feedback. Until next time, peace.